Hello and welcome back to Out of Spec Bits. We have an update on our Cybertruck saga. I have this little thing here to remind us what it is. Kyle's Cybertruck has been in the fleet for about a year now, so stay tuned, I guess, for a year-long update. We have a lot to talk about because we've had a lot to go on with this Cybertruck. Today, it's not even with us. It's currently at Tesla in Loveland because it had some major failures that rendered it completely undrivable. So we're going to talk about everything we've experienced in the last couple weeks, I guess, with the Cybertruck, from rear motor going to entire truck going, and why we're not driving it, and who knows if we ever will again.
Right, and also what it took to get it to service.
Right.
That's the new update.
That's the new update. Okay, so backing up a little bit, Kyle, it's been a couple weeks since you had a rear motor failure, right? That's right. A good start.
Let's even go backwards. There was a recall for Cybertruck motors. And before any of that even happened, we got a new motor in our truck, suspiciously.
Front motor,
which in our truck is the permanent magnet motor, because we have the tri-motor version. In the standard dual motor trucks, it's the rear motor.
Right.
So most Cybertrucks that were early, ours is like VIN 100 something, needed the new permanent magnet motor. Ours got that before kind of any of that blew up and happened. And I was like, why do you want our motor back? And I was like, yeah, if you're doing an engineering study, that's what it was at the time. I'm like, I think something's going on here. But the truck went in, it's fine. We got a new motor. We would have had to do it anyway. Because I guess they found issues with ours and others during that study. If it was actually a study, I don't know. Don't know what happened to it. And they had to replace most of the early ones, is my understanding. Then there was a separate recall issued that I completely missed. And I'm not even sure if the permanent magnet front motor in our truck, rear motor in the others, was actually a recall, or if they were just waiting for them to fail, or what happened there. But all of this seems to only impact early trucks.
Right.
And ours is of that. I don't know what constitutes an early truck, but I think if you buy one now, it's not going to have any of these issues. Then I got a recall went out for the induction rear drive units for the tri-motors, which is essentially one motor housing with two mechanically unlinked induction motors that are there for the tri-motor. And I didn't know that was a thing until after my truck faulted and I lost all rear drive power. So it popped up with some high voltage errors. I have a whole in-depth videos on Out of Spec reviews about all this. And the truck was running fine with a single front wheel drive pulling me along, the new permanent magnet motor in my truck. And what was interesting about that was it was only the right rear motor that failed, but it wouldn't energize that drive unit at all. Mm-hmm. So I was working with one of the three motors. Now, at the time, you actually dug into it a little bit, Jordan, I think, or even my dad, and you found that it was not entirely uncommon to have the induction motor inverters go out. Mm-hmm. We've learned. I didn't know that was a thing. And there's actually a recall for it that I never knew was a thing also, because the truck's registered to my parents' condo in Florida. No one ever checks the mail there. And it's the Tesla app should pop up with recalls.
That is wild that the Tesla app doesn't notify you of the recalls that we know of.
The Kia app does. The Ford app does. So many others do.
Right.
Even, the Mercedes app does, because I got one for the Sprinter. But Tesla, no.
Weird.
That's wild. I had no idea. So I was just rolling on this thing, driving it.
So you were in front wheel drive essentially for a bit. And did you have plans to, what was the strategy to get this sorted?
Well, as soon as it happened, I made a video, because that's what we do. We're here to share ownership updates, and we've shared so many cool things we've done the truck, off-roading it, get the video up the next day, range test, videos up the next day. It breaks, video up the next day. It doesn't matter what happens. That's why we buy a few cars a year and make videos about them through ownership stories. And we never want an issue to happen, but it's also like, if it does, we're not here to hide it. Like we're going to share what's going on, because yes, the views are good, but also it is important, I think, to light a fire under the companies that are providing products that are failing.
Right.
And that's unacceptable to deliver. I think it's unacceptable that our Cybertruck, from the time we took delivery of it to today, needed all 3 major motors, either significant work, replaced. It's crazy.
Yeah, not to mention the wiper coming off on me in the middle of Utah, the sail metal piece being replaced. I mean,
Right.
a bunch of little things have happened.
But then there's also that front end thunk that is so annoying.
Yeah.
And I have like, when I hit the throttle, the truck goes right. When I hit the brake, the truck goes left. I've got a bunch of problems with it. And that's what was going to go all into the 1-year ownership update, because those are like small little things.
Yeah.
But when the motor fails,
that's bigger.
that's worth a video.
Yep.
So that all happened, drove front wheel drive for a few days. And I was kind of just like driving it around a bit. I felt a little bit bad because I was just like really putting stress on those front tires all the time. And I needed to tow a little bit actually. And I still do because I've got the trailer out here, but I didn't really feel comfortable towing with it in front drive.
Yeah.
Because it would barely, like it didn't even give you full power on the front motor if you went wide open throttle.
Yep.
It just like gives you a little bit. And it's basically the same amount of power that I would get before the rear motors would kick on before. So when you drive the truck normally, when everything's working, it's front wheel drive and it gives you like 30% of its power. And then if you go past, harder into the accelerator pedal, it spins up the rear motors and gets them, by spins up, I mean, they're already spinning. There's no clutch disconnect, but it applies positive torque to those motors. And then collectively, they will increase power together. But I could never get the front motor really to go above that blend point. So it was pretty slow off the line.
Right.
Like if you had to pull out in front of someone, you got to get some extra time.
Could you even keep it at like, normal traffic speeds?
Yeah.
You could.
Yep. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, just slower.
Yeah, it was just a slower acceleration, but it got up to 60, 70 miles an hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then did you have plans to like, when did you schedule service? Like what was the strategy for that?
So the part failed the night, I forget what night it was, but at night. And then first thing in the morning, I scheduled service and I just said, my truck's broken. Please fix. And it was like, I think a 11-day or 12-day wait for service.
Wow. Okay.
Which we have a small service center here in Loveland. So that's to be, but it's not like they ever said, bring it in early.
Right.
They know us, they see the videos. They weren't like, let's get it here right away.
Yeah.
And the inverters still are not there.
Okay.
So those parts should have been ordered at the time that the truck had a failure.
Yeah.
And I was just over there today because of my Model S. We'll get into it, but those parts still aren't arrived. It's just sitting there waiting for parts.
So how to get there and why were you not able to get it there like you thought?
Right. So after I'd been driving it around front wheel drive just for like a day or two, we went on a trip to Austin for South by Southwest, came back home, left it plugged in my garage at 50% state of charge, which is what I always do. Preconditioned the truck. So the high voltage systems were active to get the heat pump running and warm up the cabin. That all worked perfectly while it was still connected to shore power. Unplugged the truck. Everything was normal, all good. Get inside. I'm like sitting there for like a minute, just like checking emails or whatever. Tap the brake pedal and ba-boom. And I'm like, oh boy, things are not good. And of course, if you're not familiar, you hit the brake pedal to start the Tesla.
Yeah.
And by activating drive rail, it, essentially all the errors came up. Big pops out the rear of it came through. They were really loud, actually. And I was like, oh, well, there's definitely more to this problem now. And then it wouldn't go into gear. So I filmed like what all the error messages were. And it was like high voltage issues, lots of random stuff that's all like tangentially related to the high voltage system. So I'm like, oh, okay, we either, have a short somewhere or there's a high voltage interlock problem. And that's what it turned out to be when I went to the HVIL menu in service mode. So cool. Tesla shows you all that, by the way. Yeah. I was able to self-diagnose the truck basically and found that, the right rear inverter had a faulted state. And, that was not that way when it went. So it must have been something where when I energized the truck, it must have shorted in the inverter. The problem got worse, or, the one thing I was thinking was, okay, even though I was running front wheel drive for a few days and the truck knew not to energize the rear drive unit after the problem occurred, I wonder if it forgot there was
like
a problem.
It fell asleep.
Yeah, like it went deep sleep for sure. And then when it woke up, it sent some power to those and, freaked it out. The pops that I heard, we found out later, and I had a suspicion, but we pulled the logs on the truck, were the pyro fuses blowing and both the high side and the low side pyro fuse, which really only happen when there's a major high voltage isolation issue or a shock load, or if you're in an accident and the airbags deploy.
And those blow to protect, like, from the battery getting something it shouldn't.
Yeah, it's basically to prevent high voltage leakage. I mean, you have to imagine, in like an accident, crazy stuff can happen. So they just basically, it's like literally like a pyrotechnic that pops in the back, and then the battery is completely isolated from the whole vehicle.
Yep.
And so the battery still has high voltage. There's nothing you can do about that. There's many kilowatt hours. The cells are charged, but at least it's self-contained.
Yeah.
So then the rest of the truck is not getting any high voltage energy. When those pyro fuses went, the only thing left to run the truck and the screens, like when I was going through service mode, was the 48 volt low voltage battery, which I have no idea what the state of charge was when I was in the truck at the time on that. Typically it holds it between 70, 80, and 95% or so. And it's like a 1 kilowatt hour battery, I think. And, but maybe because it was in a deep sleep, you know, it could have been lower state of charge. I'm not 100% sure. It probably would have charged up once I started driving, but, that only kept the truck alive for probably 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Maybe 2.5 minutes. I did a scroll wheel reset. I was like, I don't know, let's just see. I'd be like, imagine if this works. And it didn't work, obviously. And then right when the truck came back after the scroll wheel reset, everything went black. And then I tried to open the door to get out of the truck, and that didn't work.
Yeah.
Because it has no power.
Right.
So I pulled the emergency release. Now I know that because we review cars and we're around these things all the time.
Yep.
But I wonder if a general user would know to go for that, because when I pulled that, it's not like the door just opened. I had to like pull it and push to break the window free of the seal, which can't be good for the seal.
Or the window.
Or the window. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was an odd feeling. So then, you know, the truck just sat dead in my garage for like 5 days or whatever.
Wow.
Yeah,
And
just
then-
a brick.
Yeah. And then you had to get it to Tesla somehow. What was that strategy? And
Yeah.
what did they say to do? Like,
So
what's Tesla doing during all this?
Well, nothing, which I don't expect them to do. I think I already had a service appointment.
Yeah.
And so it's not like they, you know, I posted the video. Our local service center watches our videos. They know what's coming in. It's not like they ever said, hey, bring it in early or anything like that. And I was actually over there talking to them because my Model S was in for service, obviously unrelated, just for general maintenance and other things wrong with it. Yeah, that's another topic, but that was in for service. And so I was like, hey, my Cyber's coming in. I'm like, should I just tow it in on the day of the appointment? They're like, yeah, that's fine. I'm like, okay. I'm like, I'm in a unique case where I'm not really in a particular rush. I don't need the truck. I want the truck. I like the truck. I use it. I need it to tow, but I'm getting my Rivian back today, which a friend was borrowing. So I'll at least have a truck to drive, which is kind of needed to have around. So I think 11 days is a bit long when you have a total vehicle failure.
Especially if you don't have extra cars and this is like your only vehicle.
Yeah. And a lot of commenters were like, Kyle, you need to be more upset about this. I'm like, I'm showing you so everyone can react individually to this.
Right.
This is the situation. I'm super lucky, super fortunate where I can drive another car. They also gave me a loaner car for the Model S, which was nice. So regardless, I had a Tesla car there, and yeah, it sucks. There's no way around it. Like that 11 days is a long time to get a vehicle into service. And that felt unusually long for Tesla.
Yeah.
Normally it's like same day or next day.
Did you have the option, like right when that fault happened, to take the truck? And I mean, technically you just drop it off there, right? But was there an availability to get you a loaner vehicle? Was that ever discussed at all?
No, never asked. I'm sure I could have just had it towed or driven it straight to Tesla and dropped it off. And I don't know if they would have a loaner available right then. One thing I will say is our local service center, the last like 3 or 4 times I've been in there, they've had like a stack of loaners.
Good.
So they're like, do you want a loaner? I'm like, yeah, what do you have? They're like, we've got an S Plaid. We've got a Cybertruck. We've got Ys. I'm like, oh, damn. They have a Cybertruck loaner.
Really?
Yeah, it's so cool. So I didn't, anyway, we got a Model Y because we were doing Model Y testing.
Yeah.
So that's what we were like, oh, let's get an old Y. That's why it was in the range test video.
Yep.
So yeah, I probably could have gotten things moving along quicker, but what I still don't understand is that when the failure occurred, it was put into the Tesla app saying we needed the at least right rear inverter, but for the recall, both. Why wasn't that ordered that day?
Right.
And maybe it was on back order. I don't know. But here we are 2 weeks later, basically now, and they're still not there.
Yeah, and your truck's just sitting there.
Yeah, it's just sitting in the parking lot where, could get damaged because it's out in the middle of the parking lot.
Yep.
So hard to say what will happen, but there's nothing we can do at this point. So to get the truck to the service center, which was really the point of this episode, because everything else has already been recounted on Out of Spec reviews, was interesting. So I had a dead truck in my garage. And, at the time of the appointment, it was like 10 a.m. yesterday. I called Tesla Roadside Assistance. They said you could do it in the app. I couldn't find the roadside assistance thing in the app because when the truck died, I had it in service mode.
Oh.
And there was like no roadside thing. So I just called the number and they didn't care. They were like, that's fine. But they asked me, oh, what's wrong with your truck? And I was really fun. I was just like, it's dead. They were like, oh, did you try plugging it in? I'm like, no, you don't understand. It ain't going to charge. He's like, no, seriously, like try plugging it in. I'm like, no. Pyro's blue, low voltage is dead. He's like, oh, dang. Okay. So yeah, I was like, first he said like, oh, what's the reason for the tow? I'm like, I have a service appointment. Can you tow it there? I was just wondering what they would do.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh no, you could drive it. I'm like, no, it's dead. So they sent Choice Towing out. Great local Fort Collins service. Nice. Jeremiah, the driver, super pro dude, really nice. Very familiar with Tesla, not Cybertrucks, but Tesla in general. So he understood the difference between a low voltage and a high voltage battery and how to get the vehicle in tow mode and how that all worked. And so he was awesome. And
how does that work with a dead truck?
Yeah, so that's what I'll walk everyone through right now, and we'll have some videos to overlay with this as well. When the high voltage battery dies and the low voltage battery dies, the truck is inaccessible. You can't get into it. I left the driver's door open, but you can't open the doors. You can't do anything. It's just sitting there. So the first thing you have to do is get the front trunk open, which is where you access not the low voltage battery, but the terminals for the low voltage stuff. And so in the left driver's wheel well area, there's a little hidden cover by the orange side marker light. It's like between where the mud flap and the wheel arch connect. There's like a gap. You pull a panel off and there's two wires in there, and you do positive and negative to those two wires, and that just releases the front trunk latch. And that just needs 12 volt. The front trunk is not power up. It just pops it open, and then you have to manually, against the motors, like force the front trunk open. From there, there's a top service panel underneath the front trunk that just pops us straight up. There's like, probably 10 clips around the whole thing, and it just pops up. And you will find a positive and negative post that you can hook up a 12 volt jump box to. Now you're jumping a 48 volt system with a 12 volt jump box. So there's actually a DC to DC booster on the back end of those two posts to bump the voltage up so it charges and gets up to the medium voltage battery.
Wow.
Which is kind of interesting.
Yeah. Very different.
That's at least how, I have one theory that maybe it doesn't work entirely that way. I'll explain that in a minute, but that's my understanding of how that all works. That's how we did it, at least. The voltages is what I'm confused about. So once that happened, we had just a normal, lithium ion jump box, a big one. The truck uses a lot of power.
I bet.
So, it's got to spin everything up. It's got to get, everything going. So as soon as we put 12 volt power on, the doors could be opened. That was right away, but the screens were black. Everything else was black. I'm like, oh, maybe it's really dead. I don't know. But after about 30 seconds, she fired up. Cybertruck came up on the screen, loaded up. I already had it in service mode, and it showed, the first thing I wanted to do was unlock the rear parking brake. And so I put my foot on the brake, hit tow mode, which is in the service settings, and that releases the rear parking brake. Now, I wasn't too concerned if we had to drag the Cybertruck out of the garage, which was our plan, Coleton.
It was, yeah.
We were going to put WD-40 under the tires and pull it out with the smart car, which would have made a great intro to all of this.
Yep.
But, it just didn't end up working out. So we had the tow truck company come by, and I released the parking brakes. And then it was kind of free to go. We left the 12 volt jump box on the posts, obviously, because that's what was powering the truck. But what was interesting is it said low voltage battery was at 0.0%. And the voltage it was showing was 9 volts.
Okay.
The steering worked though, so there's no way it was at 9 volts. That could have been the incoming voltage that it was then bumping up. I can't imagine the medium voltage lithium ion 48 volt nominal. It's like 46 volt nominal.
Yep.
I can't imagine that going down to 9 and still powering up.
Yep.
There's got to, lithium has like a bottom point that you have to cut off at before you permanently damage those cells, and it's a lithium ion small battery. So basically we left a 12 volt jump box on there. Whether the DC to DC was doing it or if it was truly running everything off 12 volt, I'm not sure. I don't think it is, because steering was working, unless it really just goes a ton of amps and very low voltage to the steering system. It shuts off rear steer, which was actually a problem, because when I pull in my garage, I go in on the left and then hard to the right, which swings the butt in.
Oh.
And so I'm like inside of where my post is to the garage. So we have to like Austin Powers this thing like 30 times trying to get it out. And we're like, oh, let's just get the tow truck here and we'll slide the truck over. And right before we decide, we finally made it by barely rubbing against the side of the garage door, which I apparently had already crashed into pulling in at one point, because the trim was a little bit down. I don't remember doing this. I don't know, but the trim was a little damaged down there on that. Have you seen that, Colton?
No.
Okay. Yeah, it's a little damaged. It could have
been from our off-roading adventures too, and we never
I'm talking about the trim on my house.
The house.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you hit it with the mirror at one point.
Alyssa
right?
hit it with the mirror.
Yes.
Yeah, that was different.
These poor trucks.
House. Yeah.
Poor house. Poor trucks. Yeah.
Yeah, the truck's got a new mirror. That was our fault. That was the one thing we did. So anyway, I mean, I've just got these wide, tires on there, and so I must have just snagged it enough to just rip the rubber trim piece on the edge of my garage door at some point. So anyway, we pushed through that. And I had front steering, and my driveway slopes down, so I was able to just let it coast out into the road. I turned, and then the truck died because the jump box died.
Yep.
And then we have no other. I have a jump box. It was also dead, of course. So now we have no jump boxes, and we have a dead Cybertruck blocking my street.
Nice.
So really, the only thing we could do was to put little sliders under the rear tires and drag it up. Now, I would never let the tow company do that if I had a physical parking pole. If there was a parking pole in there, I'd be like, look, don't stress out my transmission, whatever. There's no transmission. There's no parking pole in the motors. It physically uses the electric part of the rear caliper to clamp onto the rotor. Now, that's a problem. We've shown it a problem in our towing tests. If you try to park the truck with a trailer on a steep grade with hot brakes, it can't hold it. And it even shows up, hey, the grade's too steep, the truck's going to roll.
Yep.
So I typically prefer trucks, especially trucks that I'm towing with, to have physical park locks, front and rear, but at least rear.
Wow.
But Cybertruck has no physical park lock. So we just dragged her right up on the tow truck.
Nice.
And then it was a smooth ride over. Jeremiah sent it over to the Loveland Service Center. He was wide open down the whole highway. That thing was doing almost 90 miles an hour. It was awesome.
Looked good, yeah.
Fastest the Cybertruck had gone in a long time. And we pull up to the service center, and he's about to just unload it right alongside the street. And you can't do that at the Loveland Service Center in early 2025 because people will destroy your car.
Yep.
And so they would set it on fire, or they would write on it or whatever. And so I was like, bro, don't put it there. A white Cybertruck right on the edge of the main road. That's not going to be good.
Plan.
So Tesla agreed. They're like, yeah, don't park that thing there. So they have one of those Larimer County Sheriff's Office police with the cameras and the whatever, the stuff you see at Walmart with the blue lights and stuff. They've got one of those at the Tesla.
Yeah. Security's ramped up. I mean, I was just at Tesla and Superior, and they had a security truck driving around. It was a little Ford Escape.
Yep.
Just give them a Model Y. Come on.
Yeah, I know.
So they parked me, they moved some cars around, and they put me as far to the middle of the parking lot as possible next to the police thing with all the cameras.
Goodness sakes.
Yeah. And so then getting it off the trailer was hilarious because we're friends with all the guys at the Tesla Service Center. They're great. They pull out one jump box and the truck launches it. It just needs too much current. And it's like, oh no, that's not going to work. So then I just see all the techs come out, and one of them was like, I'm just working on your S right now, and here's her Cybertruck dead. And so they get a jump box on there. Finally, they get it back into tow mode. We wheel it off that was really the end of it. And so then it got dropped off, and that's where it is currently. But the process for towing was fairly simple, but also multi-step for different electrical systems. 12 volt to open the front trunk latch, 12 volt to 48 volt to get the medium voltage going. Getting it into towing mode is something really important to unlock those rear parking brakes. And so like that process is probably not known in the Tesla world as much as it should be.
Well, just in the world in general. I mean, fortunately, you're one of the super nerds, but it's like just an average Joe owner who is like, I just got this truck because I like it. And then this all happens. And then
Yeah, Jeremiah asked him, like, if I didn't have it in all that, he's like, I would have just ripped it out of the garage and, said, good luck.
Nice. Good luck, tire marks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, when we loaded it up on the truck, it left huge skid marks in my street. Looked awesome.
Nice.
Yeah. So,
okay.
The truck's there. When it dropped off, I heard that the inverters were supposed to get there this morning.
Okay.
When I went there this morning to pick up my Model S for service, they said, we don't know when the inverters are coming.
Yep.
So it could be there for a day, could be there. We could pick it up tonight. I mean, I think the problem is relatively simple to fix in the sense where just, swap the 2 new inverters in the rear. The front motor's already been replaced, so they can skip that, although I would have had to have that done as well.
Yeah.
And then, replace the pyro fuses, which they have in stock. And then we're good to go. I still have issues with the truck, with the clunk, with the alignment, with other stuff. They're going to align it, I think, actually, because when Jeremiah was pulling it up on the truck, we think he may have bent one of the lower control arms. We don't know 100%, but it was a real big tug and the truck was dead. So we're going to just double check everything.
So,
but
a lot of comments on the videos are along the lines of, Kyle, you've had so many issues with your Cybertruck. How can you still love it?
Yeah. Well, I think it's cool. It looks cool. I mean, objectively, it's not pretty at all. I agree when people say it's ugly, but it's just interesting. It's different. Like my dream car is a Morgan 3-wheeler. I'm sure that's going to have more issues than my Cybertruck.
Yeah.
That's made of wood, basically. Like if you dump the clutch, it can split in half. Yep. That's pretty cool. For me. For most people, probably not interested in that.
Yeah.
So, I think I have a really, I in particular in the sense where I want my cars to be perfect, but I have a pretty high tolerance for service times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say more than the average person too.
Yeah, I mean, and in full transparency, like we got 2 great videos out of it, and now this one. So like, it is good for content. There's no way around it. We're not going out of our way ever to break a car, but it doesn't. Like, although yes, I'm down a truck, and I hated that we had to drag it up on the thing because the 12 volts died, and I hated that it was front wheel drive, and I would never want this to happen. When it does happen, it isn't from a business case. It's not the end. It's a good situation, actually.
Yeah.
But, we just share what it is. We also, we have a history to go back on. We've shared far more positive stories than we have a negative about Cybertruck. And yes, I still love the truck because it drives unlike anything else. It's fantastically dynamic in the sense where you can go to Baja mode and slide it around. It's got all the power in the world. I just would not buy a tri-motor again. I would just get a dual motor.
Yeah. Even now?
Yeah, I just drove Dan's dual motor the other day for the range test. That rear drive, it's 100 times quieter because the rear motor is doing all the work. It doesn't clunk every time you hit a bump. It was faster than I ever really drive my truck. I didn't need any more than the dual motor. I thought it was spicy enough. You still get Baja mode. You still get to slide it around. You get dual mechanical lockers, which is way better than the software locker in the back of the tri-motor.
And his truck was almost $50,000 less.
Yeah, it was over $40,000 less than my truck.
It's crazy.
And it's better in almost every way. Less rattles, just newer build, felt better. And so, I mean, I would say we purposefully wanted to get an early Cybertruck to get the videos in. The plan worked. It was good. Well, this is what we do. But I also think, on the other side of people saying I shouldn't be nice to Tesla, on the other hand, people are saying I should have expected problems from getting an early truck.
Yeah. Yeah, and there are comments as well, and even Coleton retweeting with the lemon emoji.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on I mean, at what point does it have to be like bought back or lemoned, or because we are a public company in the sense of we share everything.
Yes.
Both good and bad, which I think is a good balance. And we get wild hateful comments on both sides saying you guys cover way too much Tesla. You love them too much. And also, I can't believe you're still driving this truck. I have so many problems. How can you like it?
Right. And I feel like that's how we know we're probably right down the middle of the line. And that's very subjective on who's watching our content from what standpoint. All we can say is our experiences and our feelings, which
we can present the facts.
Yeah. Well, yeah, facts and plus my opinions. But like there's a bunch of other creators out there that have had major Cybertruck failures that never posted about it.
Yeah.
It just feels disingenuous. I mean, our thing has always been to just tell the story as it is, you know, like, and the other thing is there's a lot of other electric cars that have motor issues. You have, you know, my EV6 with ICCU issues that'll just leave your car dead.
Yep.
EV9s,
we've shared all those. Yeah.
Exactly. EV9s have had front motors lunching themselves as well. ID4s have had this issue, and we've shared all of it.
We just have no skin in the game. For us, you know, Tesla's just, you know, even though we cover Tesla often because first of all, they have a lot of new product right now, especially with 3 and Y and Cyber. So we're heavily on those. They're also incredibly popular. And even in this climate, the videos still outperform any other electric car that we're covering. So there is a, you know, we want to cover what our viewers watch, and that is what they watch, the numbers say. But like, I have no problem making a good Tesla video or a bad Tesla video. It just is whatever it is. And in our case, when your truck dies, it's not good. That's bad. And so I have no idea what's going to happen next. You know, in full transparency, I asked Tesla to buy it back. I said, hey, we are officially submitting a repurchase request for the truck. I feel like we've had a significant number of problems that we've kind of just let go. I feel like the truck doesn't drive as representative in a new one, and I don't think they can fix it because Tesla has observed and agreed that there is a problem with this front motor skipping. Other tri-motors do it too, but that's not how the truck should be. Like, that's unacceptable. That is a design fault with the truck. And that alone constitutes them buying it back in my mind. And then it's just been down. Like, it was in service for a month. Now it's been down for another 2 weeks, and they can just take it back. That's what I want to happen. And maybe I'd buy a new dual motor.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it is hard to, I mean, initially when the Cybertruck came out, I was like, okay, it looks kind of silly. I like it because it's different. But even just using your Rivian versus Cybertruck, I love both for different reasons. But I mean, we were trying to haul Timon's bumper in the Rivian, and it was too small. And I was like, if only we had the Cybertruck bed, because it's actually the most usable bed of like all the trucks.
Except for Silverado Sierra.
True.
So that's what kind of catching my eye is probably, I feel like I wouldn't do another Cybertruck. I've really been thinking about it. Initially, I was like, if Tesla buys my truck back, I'm just going to get a dual motor because I love the truck so much. But I feel like I am going to probably have a Cybertruck, at least another one in the future at some point for something. I do think it's important to highlight the other electric trucks. Rivian we've already got, and we've got an R1S coming. So we've got that covered. I just need like a real usable utility truck to actually do towing with.
And that's how we've touted GM, rightfully so. I mean,
that Sierra Denali looks great. I would want I want the 24 launch edition because I think it looks the best and it comes with the best equipment, but it doesn't have the new motors.
Right.
And if we're going to do testing, we need the newest thing. So then I would probably get a 25 Sierra.
Just black on black.
Yeah. They don't look good in white. They don't look good in other colors. I like the launch color quite a bit. I don't really know too much. But then, Jordan, I'm just like, maybe I should get a diesel.
That's the answer.
Because even towing with the Silverado and Sierra, first of all, they're a lot of money. There's going to be huge depreciation. You know, we'd have to say with the Cybertruck, it was a pretty easy way to say, okay, this is a new hot truck. We can make some money with the videos to offset the depreciation. And the depreciation was exactly what I had planned for when we bought it. So that was not a surprise. I thought it'd be worth 70. It's worth about 65.
Wow.
So
that's crazy.
And the truck was over, 120 new, basically.
I think early ones were being resold for like 300.
Oh, I got so many offers for huge money on my truck. And I, of course wouldn't. We signed a thing that said I have to hold it for a year. So I did that. But I don't know what I would do next if they buy it back. I mean, I think that's just the thing. I requested it 2 weeks ago tomorrow, the buyback, and no response from Tesla. Friends of mine have had their cars bought back. Also not talking about it publicly. Don't know why.
That's weird.
Many early Cybertrucks were bought back. Many of them. I don't know if there's a thing that says you can't talk about it, but I will give up whatever they were going to give me for my truck if I can't talk about it. I'd say, no, you can buy my truck back and I'm going to talk about it.
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
That would be insane. But I did ask someone and they said it was not in the clause. Like they didn't they indicated to me that they could have, they just chose not to. Don't know why.
Right.
But in my impression, I think they should buy it back. I think we could try to go the lemon law case as well. It's certainly worth trying.
I mean, it's getting there. It's getting to the point the truck's been in service so long. I mean, that front motor you had took over a month, right? Wasn't it 6 weeks?
Yeah, I don't think it was quite 6, but I think it was over 4.
Yeah.
We'd have to go back and look at the numbers before we totally quote it. But it's definitely worth, like, if Tesla comes back and says, hey, we're not going to buy the truck back, I'm going to call, Steve Leto or one of these, like, lemon law attorneys that really know what's up and just be like, hey, do we have a case here?
Yeah. And it's well documented.
And if we do, then I've never been through that process. I would like to learn how that process works. I'm happy to go through that process because I do think the truck is not, like, regardless, even if the motors are fixed, my feeling is the truck is not representative of how a new one should drive.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be, it's not a clean truck.
Yeah.
Just all the weird front end issues that it's had. It's just not normal. It's not right. And it's not fixable according to Tesla.
Yeah, and it almost makes Tesla look better if they buy it back. Otherwise, they're kind of admitting, like, no, this is a normal truck.
Right. Well, we'll make all the videos about that. So no problems doing that from my side. But we're not going to use, like, the YouTube platform as a way to push things through. Like, when service puts in the request, you have to go to your service center to put in the buyback. Or, like, those people probably have no idea who the heck we are. They're just, like, crunching numbers all day and doing whatever. So my understanding is when Tesla buys back a vehicle, they give you the full purchase price back, which would be amazing considering what it's worth right now.
Yeah.
And they subtract 25 cents a mile.
Wow.
Which, okay, whatever. Sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So
okay.
There's a financial benefit for that. I'd be into that 100%, but that's not the main driver for why I've asked for a buyback. It is purely because I think the truck is not representative.
Yeah.
So what do you think customers and OEMs can learn from this, from buying an early truck? Do you feel that Cybertruck wasn't fully vetted before they put it out into market? Do you think people should hold off to get a new product like this? What's your feelings?
I think my view has always been, it's got a warranty. Who cares what happens?
Yeah, that's always been your view.
Yeah. And so that's their problem, not mine, if it breaks. For a normal consumer, though, that's not really the right way to think about things. You want a tried and tested thing. We buy cars to share with our viewers that is new and exciting, and then move them on, potentially when we're done with them. And, I just, this last issue, like, even when the rear motor failed in the Cybertruck, I was like, oh, okay, if they fix it, that'd be kind of cool. And then the whole truck just went haywire, and I'm like, I really don't want this thing anymore.
I'm just imagining, I have a lot of customers that come through the detail shop that don't have multiple cars, and to have, like, a quite catastrophic failure like this could really put them in a bind with, getting to work. How, like, if you have a truck die in your garage and you have no other mode of transportation, that is a serious issue. And
yeah, anytime you blow a motor, which this is essentially equivalent to, that's a real major problem.
Yeah.
It's not unique to Tesla.
No.
I mean, GM has 6.2 liter issues out the ass right now.
Yep.
So, and we're in an extremely fortunate situation for this to happen. But you're right. If it was a consumer in a different position, I would say you never buy the first year of a new thing.
Yeah.
I mean, even normal cars that we test, we have issues with. Like, I can't think of one car off the top of my head that it's like, oh, that's really going to be reliable. I've had Toyota issues. I've had issues with pretty much everything. Everything's got issues.
Yeah.
It's just, in this case, we bought a Cybertruck. It's got issues. We're going to share it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, that's a bit
except for the Nissan Leaf. The Leaf seems to be seems to be a cockroach. Yeah. Other than the slow aging of the battery pack.
Yeah.
Because it's not liquid cooled, they don't really break.
Yeah, not really.
Yeah, and mine was the early onboard charger that faulted. That's really it. Onboard charger, 12-volt batteries, which is normal with any car. That's a wear item, and that's it.
Yeah.
Leafs are awesome.
Well, I mean, that's a bit of the update on our Cybertruck.
Yeah, what I'm really curious is to see, okay, when is Tesla going to say it's fixed, and we'll do an update as we're picking it up on this channel probably. Yeah. And then this is always the smaller, more behind the scenes stuff than compared to the reviews channel. So more info to come as we have it.
Yeah.
But it's sitting in the middle of Tesla Loveland right now. Please don't go over and damage it. That would really suck. I almost want to wait until it's fixed to post this. We're not going to, but I know someone's going to find it and be like, oh, let's go destroy that dude's truck.
Well, yeah, either be fixed or bought back or something. We don't know yet. That's part of the story.
If Tesla buys it back, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, thanks for watching another Bits video, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Bye-bye.